Ruben Amorim has confirmed Amad Diallo and Matthias de Ligt's return. They're in the matchday squad ahead of the Europa League game. Well, they're in the travelling squad, but he said, look, they're ready to play, they're just not ready to start. Manchester United desperate for Franco Mastantuono, it's looking like, and preparing potentially a big offer, ready to trigger the release clause, but they want to pay it in installments. But does the player want to go to Manchester United? The travelling club for the Europa League game is revealed, 26 people involved. 3 of them will not be in the matchday squad. Why are they involved? Well, that's because Amorim wants to train them Friday morning ahead of the Brentford game, where we are expected to see a lot of youngsters get minutes. Gyokeres news to Victor Romanos confirms United very much in and very much do like Victor Gyokeres, but it could depend on the financials. Enzo is confirmed in Manchester. The young French striker was set to sign. And more updates on Delap. Could he go to United? Could he go to Chelsea? What's the latest on that? So, hello, and welcome back to Alice Talks Football, and welcome back to your 10-minute Manchester United news, transfer news, and update roundup. But we're going to get through all the news in the next 10 minutes for you guys. If you do enjoy today's video, feel free to hit that like button, and of course, subscribe if you're new and you want to stay up to date with all the latest content. Amorim said this: Amad and de Ligt are not fit enough to start, but they can be in the squad tomorrow. And I very much expect them to be in the squad tomorrow. If we actually look at the squad ahead of tomorrow, before we get into the transfer news, you can see here Anana, Baindir, Heaton obviously involved. Amas, I think he could start potentially. De Ligt, Dorgu, Evans, Fredrickson, Camerson, Lindelof, Maguire, Mazraoui, Shaw, Yoro. Very thin defensively in the sense of how many people we got out. So there's a lot of youngsters there. Fredrickson, Amas, Aiden Heavens still isn't ready to return. Camerson also in there. Camerson could definitely get minutes. Interestingly, Mantato is also involved as well. Casemiro, Eriksson, Bruno Fernandes, Kone, Mainu, Mount Agate, Ahmad, Mantato, Garnacho, Hoyland, Obi. No Jack Morehouse in there though, which is a little bit disappointing because I've always wanted to see him. Now, interestingly, Kone and Obi cannot play in the Europa League. They're not registered. The reason they're involved in the squad is because Ruben Amorim is doing training Friday morning. He wants them in training Friday morning because they're in contention for the Brentford game. There's 3 players in this team that will not, in this 26-man squad, that will not be involved in the match they scored versus Bilbao. 2 of them are Obi and Kone. The third, maybe Mantato. I'd probably guess. Just because as good as he is, Camerson's probably been more involved in first team training. Fredrickson's already played. I'd probably guess him. I don't think he's going to drop one of the first team names, to be honest. And Amos has already played minutes as well. So I maybe assume Mantato is the third being dropped. But the fact that they are being called up to United training and on the Bilbao trip pretty much shows that they're very much in Ruben Amorim's heads. He's very much considering giving them opportunities. And one thing we do know and was reported is that Ruben Amorim is going to rotate heavily versus Brentford and is expected to give the youth a chance. But let's go back into the transfer news, because we're talking about the youth we have, and I'm all down for buying youth, but I also just remember we have such good youth players. We'll sell them for £1 million and they'll be really good and they'll be worth a lot more. The youth has always shined at United, and I think with Lindelof and Eriksson's contract set to expire, I'd rather see the youth play. Now, talking of youth talent, there's 2 or 3 youth talents out in South America: Esteval, Franco Mastantuono, that are very highly rated. And Manchester United see Franco Mastantuono like they see, I think, Lenny Euro last summer, where they really want him, but is he waiting for Madrid? United ready to activate release clause. They prefer to pay installments rather than upfront. United and Marseille have spoken directly with River Plate. Talks held recently in Argentina with River Plate's sporting director. Mastantuono giving no encouragement, waiting on Real Madrid. Same message sent to all interested European clubs. Now, interestingly, I think Romano played down the possibility of Real Madrid moving for him and played down Real Madrid's interest. From what I'm getting from reliable journalists, Real Madrid are not that bothered about going for this deal. So if he's waiting for Real Madrid, he might not get that. But Manchester United apparently ready to activate the release clause. We're ready to make a big bid. We're ready to push potentially hard to try and get this deal done and trigger that release clause if he is willing to go to us. United, Marseille, PSG, Chelsea, definitely the 4 teams most interested. Maybe Real Madrid come in and show an interest, but Real Madrid haven't actually reportedly shown that much interest if you look at sort of what Romano had to say on this. You know, this is obviously reports coming out from Sport Witness. But this is saying that United very much ready to activate the clause if they can pay in installments. And there's a lot of strong suggestions that, yes, United is seriously interested in this guy. It's not agent talk saying that we're a little bit interested to try and get the move to hurry along. It looks like United is seriously interested in this. Having talks with River Plate, having talks, with the sporting director shows that United are ready to potentially move and push for it. Romano confirmed that United and Chelsea are interested in the player and are very well informed in this situation. Less reliable sources said that United, Real Madrid and PSG have all made offers. I think if Real Madrid had made an offer and he's waiting for Real Madrid, we would have known about it from now. Now, I think that Mastantuono isn't going to go anywhere until August. He turns 18 in August. I think clubs will know their budget and how much they've got left to spend on a young star, because they still want 37 million for play, which is a lot of money for a youth star. I don't think many teams really want to take the risk and spend more than 25 million. I think he'll be available in August, and I think it will be, do Real Madrid go in, do PSG go in, do United go in, do Chelsea go in? I think in August he could potentially get his move to Europe. I think this is one that it looks like United are really interested in him, but I also think this is a deal that could potentially drag on. Even though it's just a release clause, play it up, we don't know our budget until we've brought this player, and seen who we can sell. You know, I don't think United want to be spending 30 plus million on a player that doesn't walk straight into the starting 11 yet. We need at least 3 signings this summer. They're going to walk straight into the starting 11. The other 3 can be players that are young and that push. And I think Franco Mastantuono in the future can get in the starting 11 if he lives up to his potential. I think he can come in and push, but he doesn't walk in that starting 11. But we're interested in the player. He can play right wing. He can play number 10. You know, we're looking like we're really interested in this guy, considering the amount of links coming out and the fact that we've held talks and we've inquired about this and inquired about that. And Romano's confirmed we're interested. So he's clearly a very high up target for United. I think the focus is in Buemo and Delap, and I think United would rather leave this later. But United might see this as a Lenny Yoro-like opportunity and push for him if they can get him. Let's continue on into some Gyokeres news. So, Manchester United remain keen on Victor Gyokeres. The FFP budget will be crucial to understand how much they can spend on a striker. Now, I think the number one striker and focus is Delap, but we know Delap hasn't made a decision. Laurie Whitwell said earlier today that Delap is, open to United, but he's not made a decision between United and Chelsea. There's other clubs interested. He's going to wait and see at the end of the season who's in Europe, who's not. He's going to look at game times, minutes, opportunities. Delap, 30 million, lower wages. United want a striker. They're sort of focused on Delap for many reasons, and he is seen as more affordable, even without Champions League football. Now, to get Gyokeres in the first place, one, we're going to need Champions League football because he wants to play Champions League football next season. He's going to be 27. He's going to be at the top of his game. He doesn't want to be at a project club. He wants to be at a club that is playing at the highest level, which quite isn't United yet. But maybe if we win the Europa League, we're at least in the Champions League, although I wouldn't say we're playing at the highest level. Now, I think, to be honest, the fact that there's more and more sort of news coming out these last few days saying, United have a serious interest in Gyokeres says to me, are United making sure they don't just ignore Gyokeres because they're not guaranteed to get Delap? I think United would choose Delap over Gyokeres for financial reasons, but I think if it wasn't for financial reasons, I think they would choose Gyokeres over Delap. I think Amorim is a fan of both, but I think if he had to choose, he'd choose Gyokeres. But I think they're focusing more on Delap for financial reasons. But I do think if we do end up getting Champions League football, I think we will push for Gyokeres harder, but I do think it's reliant on Champions League football. But I think he's wanted. I think he's liked. I think while we seem to focus on Delap, I think the club really do like Gyokeres, and I think Amorim really likes Gyokeres, and I think he's really wanted. I just think Delap is probably seen as more affordable or more realistic. I hope we get Gyokeres. I like Delap, but I would rather get Gyokeres. 52 goals in 48 games. The guy is a monster. So yeah, this was the squad. I got into that earlier, but Amorim actually said on the squad, we need to prepare for the next game against Brentford. We have brought young kids to prepare for the next game. That's why there's 26 people in the squad, but only 23 can be involved. So I think 3 of the youngsters will very much be involved versus Brentford, or I say involved, on the bench, maybe 1 or 2 starts. There could be a surprise debut versus Brentford. I wouldn't be shocked if we see a Fredrickson. I mean, he's already made his debut, but I wouldn't be shocked if we saw Fredrickson start. Maybe we see someone like Kone get 10 minutes. Maybe we see someone like Mantato or Camerson get 10 minutes, particularly with Delo's injury. It'll be interesting to see which youth get involved. I will be live tomorrow around midday, by the way, to talk about the Europa League in the preview. Stephen Ralston said this: Enzo Cannabajik is travelling to Manchester to finalise his transfer. I spoke about this morning. I spoke about it on Sunday. Reportedly, he was always going to be travelling to Manchester on Wednesday. I think United are trying to do a medical today. I don't know if that's gone down, but I spoke about it this morning. There was a report that he's going to complete his move. Steve Ralston, who's very well connected to United Academy News, is now confirming he's travelling to Manchester to finalise the deal. It looks set to be done. On Sunday, there was reports of a medical being booked in that we spoke about as well. That probably looks to be the case. And yeah. And then the final story is coming from Graham Bailey that Chelsea are currently leading the race to sign United transfer target Delap, and the Blues believe the law of being first choice number 9 will help them land him. I mean, he's got to compete with Jackson or Højlund, so I don't know how saying he's going to play more minutes at Chelsea is going to lure him, because if he uses his brain, he knows he's going to play more minutes at Man United. I'm not sure how I feel about that story, but I do think in the last 2 or 3 days, there's been a lot of transfer sources and information linking United back to Gyokeres again. And maybe United have a few little doubts about Delap, and maybe we're just getting those Gyokeres links again because of that. I'm not sure. Who knows? The media could just be guessing. But let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you for watching. Bye.